grip. I am so excited and I feel so blessed to be joined today by Dr. Melva Green. Hi, Dr. Melva.
Hi, darling.
So I am happy to call her not only my friend, but also a kindred spirit and someone that I consider in my tribe of folks that believe in this concept of really leveraging our cultural traditions towards better health. So Dr. Melva Green is a board-certified psychiatrist, but also a very spiritual woman and healer. And she is the author of Breathing Room Relevant. I think we're going to focus on our conversations as it related to really, again, leveraging our Black cultural traditions in achieving better health. I do want to say that in the spirit of Get a Grip, Melva is someone who believes in grubbing well.
Oh, I eat very well.
Believes in grooving frequently. Releases loudly and proudly. And is a very powerful and peaceful spirit. One of the things I wanted to focus on for our first chat is really the peace aspect, because what do you think is the value of this concept of peace within the Afro cultural tradition?
Well, first off, Tanya, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so pumped about this project and getting a grip. I love it. I've watched you grow over these last several years, and watching this baby be born is truly an honor. So first, let me just honor you and bless you for taking this endeavor all the way. I'm backing you 100%. But as you said, I am a psychiatrist, but I move in a more holistic perspective. And I have a tremendous respect for the cultural aspects of healing, harmony, and well-being. In the field of medicine, that has not been something that was naturally carved out. It's something I've had to go back and dig up my own roots, so to speak, to really uncover that and to really be able to provide a level of care, medical care, psychiatric care, wellness care, that really was in alignment with my soul, with my spirit, with what I know to be true for people, for Black people in particular, and also to be able to use our spiritual traditions for healing, for peace, for well-being. And that's how we seek solace, for many of us is in the church or in our particular faith belief. And so keeping those things separate, keeping faith separate, keeping peace separate, keeping meditation separate from one's health just does not make sense. Does not make sense in general, but especially within the ethnocultural paradigm that we come through.
So given all of that, and some of the conversations that we've had about the unique, I'll call it context, that particularly Black Americans find themselves in, talk about, based on your experience as sort of a Western trained psychiatrist, but then also as a holistic, as a believer in holistic methods and a holistic healer. What do you think are some of the reasons why it is actually vitally important for us as Black Americans to focus on peace?
Well, there's so many different levels and so many layers to this question, but the outer world or the outer expression is the inner world made manifest. So whatever is out of balance on the inside is what's going to be out of balance on the outside. That's going to show up as physical disease. That's going to show up as emotional imbalance. So the inability to actually have peace is a setup for illness. It's a setup for being sick and for dying young. We have to have peace in order to have health and well-being. And peace doesn't necessarily look the same in every single individual. So peace for someone may be dancing, to the drums. Peace for someone else may be sitting quietly in silence. For someone else, it may be in church and catching the Holy Ghost. So it looks like different things for different people. And so I think that's the first thing we need to be aware of, that it's not a one size fits all. And what we also know, if we're going to go back to sort of the illness model, we know that illnesses show up in the context of the culture and the ethnicity in which the person presents. So one of my mentors, Dr. Anel Prim, she actually did a video years ago called Black and Blue, and she talked a lot about how depression looks in African American women. African American women don't say they feel sad or down in the dumps. Oftentimes they say they feel angry, or they're irritable, or they come up with a whole lot of physical illnesses that there is no real explanation for. So we know this. You know, health professionals who have some level of awareness know that illnesses look different in different people.
Right. So going back to a conversation we had and building on that, when we look at Black Americans and what we experience on a day-to-day basis, I think you had mentioned the connection between what's happening physiologically and what's happening to us sort of emotionally as we're dealing with, you know, microaggressions on a daily basis, et cetera. So can you talk a little bit about that as it relates to, again, the importance of this because of what is happening to us on a daily basis?
Well, there are so many societal issues. Let's not even get into the political issues that that are definitely impacting poor and or ethnic minorities far more than anyone else. And so dealing with that is an ongoing thing. It's not a one time you get, all of a sudden you get peace and nirvana and that's it. You're not going to have to go out and deal day to day with the realities of what we're facing. So it really is a challenge, and it's really something that we need to look at more clearly and be more aware that we actually have more specialized needs in terms of finding that peace, finding that inner harmony, recharging, restoring, rejuvenating so that we can get out and battle another day.
I love that, because that's what it is. And we have to be okay with that. But understand that we have the tools, which I think is sort of the perfect segue to, if you want to talk about it from a personal perspective, that would be great in terms of some of the things that you do, but understanding that there's not a one size fits all model. What would you recommend for people that are looking for, well, you know, what can I explore in terms of options? I know you mentioned a few earlier, but if we do talk about now, understanding that this is something we need to do, what are some ways we can do it, and where should we be looking for that?
I really start with waking up in the morning. That is the most vital time during the day. Before you jump out into the world, take a moment, stop. This is what I do. I don't get out of the bed before I do my morning prayers. I don't get out of the bed before I say thank you for waking me up for another day, and really staying in that space for about 10 minutes of just gratitude and just going through my mind of all the things, all the people that I'm thankful for, that I'm grateful for. And then I also ask my ancestors. So for me, my path is one where I feel supported by my ancestors. I feel that my walk in this life, my purpose in this life is the prayer, is my ancestors' prayer. So every day I also take a moment to just honor them and thank them and ask them to walk with me throughout the day. Just, you know, be another set of eyes and ears for me so that I can learn to trust myself, trust my own instincts, trust my own intuition, and move in more of a peaceful way, because I know that I'm not alone. And I know that something or someone's have my back. And that allows me to move with a more stillness, a more specific awareness about where we are. And, you know, I also think that, you know, some scripture, you know, I'm a big believer in Psalms 23. That's my power scripture. You know, my grandmother taught it to me, and I don't go a day without reciting it. And for me, that's my mantra. That's my affirmation. I know that I am not walking alone, no matter where I'm walking in darkness. I'm not walking alone. And those very simple things at the start of the day can be very, very powerful, because you're not just throwing yourself out there into the world unsupported, mindlessly, because that's when you're really not in the position, you're not anchored enough to be able to deal with the day-to-day stresses that are going to be thrown at you, whether it's just someone cutting you off in traffic, or in, you know, anything, you know, you're able to move with a much more anchored space. Gratitude is a very, very, very powerful thing to meditate on. And it is very useful in terms of just centering oneself. Because when you're grateful, you just move with a different level of awareness about whatever's coming to you, whatever's coming at you. You're grateful. You're in a spirit of gratitude. And what really can harm you from there? You know, one of the first things I think we have to kind of back up a little bit, though, Tanya, is just encouraging people that, you know, their way is their way. They don't have to do it a way, a particular way. And there's no such thing as doing it wrong. You know, your meditative practice, there is no such thing as doing it wrong. And so whatever speaks to your spirit is what it speaks to your spirit. And so for some people, that may just be some good old gospel music, you know, just turning that on and sitting and going into worship, going into that place of just being able to be in full gratitude for being here and being present. That's powerful. You know, I used to just kind of watch my grandmothers just be in that space every morning when they were making breakfast or cooking. And it wasn't until I was well-studied and traveling the world where I realized, oh, wait, this is the way my grandmothers did it. You know, this is how they have their morning devotion, their morning meditation. So, you know, however that shows up, that's how it shows up. And as long as the intention is there of just being able to be still and to hear that still small voice and to feel grateful and to feel loved, because that's really what this is about, is getting into that space of feeling loved and seen and held, so that we can actually go out into the world and do what we're actually here to do.
So I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
I know I said that was your last thing.
Okay.
So, especially because you brought up dance and rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see what we've talked about in terms of meditation, in terms of breath, in terms of this opportunity to be still? Where do you see that in our cultural tradition? Because one of the things we started out talking about, and the premise of Get a Grip, is that we have some cultural traditions that are very, very strong and that we should take advantage of. I think you gave an example of your grandmother would listen to gospel music, which is a pretty much Black American tradition. So where does this whole concept of peace fall in the sort of Afro cultural tradition from your perspective?
Ooh, where doesn't it fall? I mean, for all intents and purposes, Tanya, let's be 100. You know, Black people should be extinct. I mean, for everything that has happened, I mean, think about it. You know, I mean, we're pretty formidable to still be around and to still be making the level of magic and music and food and joy that we bring into the world. So where is peace not, is maybe the better question. But I think what you're asking is kind of what are some of the practices that have been done? Well, I mean, the question is how far you want to go back. So, you know, there's so many traditions that actually have full-on initiations where you go into the dark. You're sent into the woods and you don't get to come out. So that you can become familiar with the darkness, and so that you can actually become familiar with the sounds that come when you really attempt to quiet the mind, because that's really what the struggle is about. The struggle is about quieting the mind, and not being overtaken by all the noise of the world and all the noise outside. So these practices have gone back to the beginning of time in more indigenous cultures. But in terms of our more modern day cultures, I don't know if your grandmother had a prayer closet, but I know mine did, you know. And so, you know, being able to go into the dark, into the closet, and have that communion in spirit. So, you know, what many of our ancestors call prayer was their meditation. You know, so some people say that prayer is talking to God and meditation is hearing. And I can't say that that's not correct, you know, but certainly that is a very common practice, and one that is very powerful, because and I'm telling you this because I've used it in personal experience, but just going into quiet and again, not underestimating the power of the community, and drawing those prayer circles and going low as I'm from the South, we go low, they go low, they get in and they go in, but getting together and collecting the collective use of the power of silence, and the power of prayer and the power of listening, for the messages that are coming, because oftentimes you can't actually hear if you're always talking. You actually can't hear what the next steps are. You actually can't hear what you need to do for your health and your well-being. And then finally, dreams. Dream is a very powerful meditative time when the brain is at a level of activity where there is no veil. And so messages can come through, peace can come through, healing can come through. So whether we know it or not, oftentimes we're already meditating. We're just doing it in ways that are just more natural to what we think is our spiritual practice, or what we've, used as our spiritual practice. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. And I do love the way you started it, because the premise of Get a Grip is that we need to get a grip. We're not extinct, but we're suffering. We're kind of treading water. And I believe that, along with the other elements, that peace and us aspiring to that peace, knowing that it's going to be a constant aspiration, has saved us, and is going to continue to save us. And so we need to grab onto it, hold on to it, use it for everything it's worth, because it is worth everything. Right. I guess is what.
And we kind of keep talking around it, but we haven't used the word trauma. But the intergenerational trauma is very much alive, and very much the sequela of the trauma is very much a challenge to finding peace, to being able to get quiet. When people are often traumatized, they can go one of two ways. They either need a lot of stimuli, a lot of noise to kind of be able to move it along, because quiet is almost too frightening. And then on the other extreme of that, they can't tolerate so much noise, because the nervous system is wounded.
Sensitive.
It's very sensitive. And so, I think when we talk about peace, we can't overlook the fact that there's some real neurochemical challenges with getting peace that need to be addressed. And there are a number of systems. There's actually a system that I studied when I was living in Bali. It's called Yoga Nidra. It's a form of meditative practice, which I think it's a beautiful practice, but it's being shown to be very effective with people who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So we know that meditation works. We know that these practices work, and we have to start really having these conversations about just how traumatized our people are, and encouraging them to focus on these meditative practice so that they can actually have the nervous system restored, because that's why we struggle so much in getting to the center, because of the trauma and the intergenerational trauma that has not been healed.
Whew.
Sorry.
No, that is actually probably the most important thing that we've talked about. To your point, we've been talking around it. And it's absolutely critical that we acknowledge that, because without acknowledging it, just like any other affliction, until we acknowledge it, we can't move forward into the healing. Right. So that is, I appreciate you bringing that up. I thank you for bringing that up.
The point of Get a Grip is about behavioral change, right? And our people. And you cannot expect a blind person to be able to see, and to say that you know, this is not a failure if you can't sit quietly for 5 minutes.
Yes.
It's not a failure, but it may be signaling something else that's going on, you know, that we need to take some time to talk about, to see a therapist, to unpack, so to speak, so that other practices can be put in play to be able to restore the nervous system, to nourish the nervous system, so that these behavioral changes can actually take place. So it's not that it's your failure, or that you're not doing something right, or that you can't get it. It's about being aware that there are many other factors that may be at play that may be making the change that much harder.
Yes, I again appreciate you bringing that up, because I know that as a health coach, you know, one of the things that I have to focus on is understanding where people are starting from, right? In order to meet them where they are and figure out, well, what is the next step in the path, and to you know, the whole sort of philosophy of Get a Grip is to start small and build gradually. But I also want to acknowledge what you were saying, two things about, one, this sort of diagnostic that you can use Get a Grip for as well. So if you know, can't seem to change your eating habits, if you can't seem to laugh easily, it's just really difficult for you to laugh or even smile, then, you know, reflect on what that means, and then, to your point, leverage your community. I start, you know, the book with the story of my friend that I lost. And he had this wonderful community, but we weren't really focused on our health, to be honest. And that's at the, you know, sort of at the foundation, because we lost him as a result of health and all of the wonderful things that he brought, because we weren't, you know, as vigilant as I think we could have been. And he certainly wasn't as observant as I think he could have been, even as smart and intelligent and, you know, community-minded as he was. So the community is absolutely critical, but also, you know, to your point, not beating yourself up. And even if this is not something that leads you to change, that it actually sort of at least starts you on the path to understanding where some of your areas for focus might be.
Some people don't even know that they can't be quiet until they try to be quiet.
Well, I'm hoping that everyone in this program has found out whether or not they can be quiet. And Dr. Melva Green, if you can't be quiet, then we'll have some resources to refer you to.
We got some resources.
Yeah, I think we've hit on the real meat of this here, and thank you again to bringing us some tough love, as you are very, very, very good at doing.
Is that what you're calling it? At least I still get invited.
So no, I think, you know, there are people that know how to tell you some hard truths without it abrasing you, and you are wonderful at doing that. And I've known this for many years, because I've heard some hard truths from you. So thank you, Dr. Melva Green. Is there something that we may actually demonstrate for folks that calls on this attitude of gratitude, to use a phrase?
I like that. I like that.
I didn't make it up, so I can't take credit.
Right. I like that. So.
Yeah, so that we can take on more of that attitude. So is there something that you might recommend in terms of, you know, and I think there are scriptures that will, you know, take you there, but are there other ways in which you think folks can kind of get on that bandwagon?
Would you like me to give like just kind of walk your people through a meditation, or what that might look like? Or, I mean, obviously I'm not going to sing, but
well,
I'm not.
that would be fantastic. I do want to echo though what you said, in that, to your point, whether it's, and I think I talk about it in the book, you know, whether it's music, whether it's some sort of affirmation that you've picked up. I mean, heck, you could say attitude of gratitude 5 or 10 times,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whether it's just deep breathing or you've got a prayer or a scripture that you like. It really is up to you to find what brings you that peace and that sort of inward, that ability to look inward and reflect on, I think getting back to what you said, reflect on and get to the point where you are very, very comfortable within your own skin, which is, I think, something that we're really challenged with on a daily basis because of what we have coming at us that suggests that maybe we shouldn't be as comfortable in our skins. So having said that, yes, I would love it if you would give an example of something that folks could take and see if it works for them.
Okay. Find yourself in a comfortable position, whether that's sitting or lying down. Uncross your arms, untangle yourself from anything that may be hindering you. Begin to bring your awareness to your breath. Allowing the breath to center you. Bringing your awareness to your heart. Allowing the breath to move deeply into your heart. As you silently say to yourself, relax, relax, relax. Bringing your awareness to your breath. And with each exhale, silently saying, release, release, release. Bringing your awareness to your breath. Allowing any random thoughts to simply release with the breath. Feeling your belly soften with each breath. Soft breath. Nothing forced. Feeling your shoulders drop. As the weights lift from your shoulders. Each breath allowing all the tensions in your muscles to release. Each breath, getting more and more in your own natural state of relaxation. You may choose any affirmation you wish. I am love. I am peace. I am held. I am kind. Whatever speaks to your heart, your mind. Allow your breath to carry that affirmation inside your body. As you're seating your affirmation, you notice that your shoulders drop even more. You find yourself so relaxed, at peace, warm, comfortable, at ease. Gentle breath. Peaceful breath. Blissful breaths of a baby sleeping. With full awareness of your breath in this natural state of relaxation, you begin to feel all the things you are grateful for. Feeling gratefulness, gratitude, washing all over you. Lifting whatever was heavy up as you watch it being carried away in a cloud.
state until you feel whole and complete, till you feel completely embodied by gratitude. Nothing to do. Simply allowing your breath to bring you into this state of awareness. Whenever you're ready to close out this meditation, do so simply by saying thank you. Thanking yourself for giving the gift of breath to you in this moment, right now. That works for me.
Thank you, Dr. Melva. And I hope that everyone was able to benefit from a little bit of quiet time. Again, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as for you, you feel that difference afterwards. You notice the shift. You feel that peace within that we are really aspiring to, so that that can quiet the noise without. You know, the quote from the book is from Marvin Gaye, who I think would know.
Yeah, he would.
I'd like to thank Dr. Melva. I don't know if you have any final thoughts you want to share with our folks.
I think the main thing is this is really about getting back to center. Life happens. Stress happens. This is what being on this earthly plane is about. So this really is about getting back to center and getting so practiced in being in this place of centering that it's very hard to throw you off center, no matter what's coming at you. And so the importance of meditation, the importance of breath, the importance of quiet time is really about getting back to center and being in harmony with everything that's coming at us, because there's no way to kind of fix it all. I wish there were. I'd retire today if there were, but there isn't. And so this is a dance. This life that we're living is a dance, and it really is about getting in the right rhythm and staying in the center so that it is not a chaotic dance, and it's a dance that feels really good to be in.
Everybody, this is why peace is absolutely critical. And we, as a community, as a Black community, as Black Americans in particular, need to highlight this and really sort of look at it head on. So Can we say namaste? Is that in our tradition? Or should we just say ashe?
It's all in our tradition. Namaste, ashe, hotep, shalom.
All right, all of the above.
All of the above. God bless you.
Thank you. All right, take care. Have a good one.